Welcome back to Season 2 of the 98% Life After Prison, a show dedicated to the roughly 22,000 individuals in North Carolina who are released back into our communities each year having completed their prison sentence. I'm Judy Van Wyk, and I'm here with my co-host, April Barber. It's good to be back after what feels like a very long hiatus. So, April, can you tell us what you've been up to since the last show?
Since the last show, I have become a North Carolina State peer support specialist. I now work with an underserved population of those in recovery from mental health, substance abuse, and also returning to the society from prison.
Wow. So, and this is a full-time job, I understand.
It is a full-time job, very much like what I've been doing all my life. So it's very good to finally get paid for what I do.
When you say when you've been doing all your life, I don't think people know what that means.
Peer support is the person that someone else relies on to get them back on track, so to speak. You know, they might need advice. They might need you to help with some of the basic needs. And if they have mental health issues and they don't always know how to go about things in the right order and or go in the right direction. So that's what I've been doing, it seems to be, for over half my life to those that I was incarcerated with. And now I'm fortunate enough to be doing it with those that are out here with me.
That's very cool. That's not the only thing you've been up to, though.
Well, let's see. I have been a couple of conferences with some of the organizations that I'm connected to. I've had several speaking engagements, and I will be going to Raleigh December the 2nd to the rally, the Racial for Freedom and Justice. It will be in front of the governor's mansion.
That is impressive. I really want to be there.
Well, I hope to see you, and since everyone's listening, I hope to see you as well.
But you've also been back in school. That was something that you said that you wanted to do in your second year, and you're doing it. You're back in school. Tell us just briefly about that.
Oh, I did forget school. Yes. I thought that I was about 5 classes away. I'm actually only 4 classes away from finishing my associates in general studies. So this is wonderful. Next semester, I will complete my associates and then move on to my 4-year college. I'm in the process of choosing it at the moment.
Do you know what you're going to study?
My degree initially was in interdisciplinary studies, but I might have to change it to general studies. Depending on which college I choose, I want to choose a college that will accept the most of my credits. That's enough about me. What have you been up to since our hiatus?
Well, I underwent a shoulder replacement of my right shoulder at the end of June. And the first few months were very painful and slow. And I was like, what did I do this for? But I'm here to report that I am nearly pain-free and getting a lot stronger all the time. And I'm really glad I did it for those who are thinking about a shoulder replacement. So really, that has been pretty time-consuming. But that's enough about us. Let's talk about our show. Today, we're going to learn about North Carolina's reentry councils and why they are so important for people who are getting out of prison.
North Carolina's first reentry councils were established in 2018 in response to Governor Cooper's concern about high rates of recidivism in the state. The purpose of the LRC is to reduce the barriers to reentry by providing case managers and a network of needed services to help people transition from prison and become contributing members of the community.
Both Orange and Durham County are fortunate to have strong, well-established LRCs. We talked to folks from both reentry councils to find out more about what they do and how they work. The first person we'll hear from is Ben Geer. He's the outreach coordinator for the Orange County Local Reentry Council. Let's take a listen.
Well, I'm somewhat of the lesser of important of the two roles. My case manager, Tiffany, is the angel and actually really gets to specifically touch the lives. I am more on the relationship building, service purveyor, finding side of things. So I try to go out and locate resources that can help our service population and then build the relationship with them so that we are able to offer that to our client base.
So what are the biggest challenges for you in your work with the LRC?
I'd say bigger buy-in, like outside of people who just do the work in public health. Like we are a community of preaching to the choirs. We can go sit down and we can talk about it or make moves to do things, all day. But when it gets to the higher levels, I think you need people who do the decision making to actually care beyond people having to mobilize, an entire county or state to say that this is a thing that matters before someone acts on it.
So what do you think the biggest challenges are for someone returning to their community after spending time in prison?
Stigma is the biggest thing, is just that as soon as people hear that that is where they are coming from, the conversation, it doesn't stop there, but it definitely now colors it. And then you're trying to speak through your experience rather than allowing your experience to just be a part of your story. And so what reentry councils, every supportive system in Orange County is just trying to be that buffer. A lot of times you just need a representative, an advocate, somebody to say like, hey, I've worked with this person and they are so awesome and you should really give them an opportunity.
Get that. What have you learned since coming to the LRC?
It is a lot harder than I thought. I hadn't been in reentry before, I had worked with young people who trying to prevent them from getting on this path, but my story in short was that I had just taken a left turn with my drinking, all that kind of stuff. And so I was in and out of trouble and whatever. And I saw how much my support systems helped me, very, very easily. If I did not have those supports, I would not be sitting here having a conversation about this being my work. That same best friend that I took this specific job for is on the other side of that. He did not have the supports, coming out. So I just see that if you don't, it's hard, even if you grew up with both parents, and in a whole hope sometimes to just get ahead or level out, as I say. But so yeah, just that supports are super crucial, and people don't have that. Somebody just saying hey, this person is worth another chance.
What motivates you? What do you find gratifying?
Because I know what it's like to not think that I could have ever been more than what I thought I could be. I thought the best that I would ever be was a really great drinker and a really good server, and as soon as I quit drinking, I saw that there were possibilities. And, someone's addiction may not be alcohol. It could be crime. You know what I mean? I do these things for whatever reason. Everything that we do that is not savory is usually stemming from a place of compensation, where you're oh, I lack here and I'm doing this so that I can make up for that. And so I think once people see that, oh, I don't have to live in a way to make up for something missing. I can live in a way to build for something that I like or that I want. That's kind of what drives me to hopefully let people see that there's more than your circumstance.
April, you worked closely with the Orange County LRC during your transition. What was that like?
The local reentry council was wonderful. They connected me to a lot of services that I needed. I didn't have a car, as I mentioned, and I didn't drive. So they connected me with a resource called Wheels for Hope, which helped me get a much needed car. They also provided me a connection with a group called Step Up. They provided educational and financial literacy classes, and just a plethora of much needed services that I needed upon my release.
And you worked with a woman, a case manager named Carmen Johnson, who we've interviewed in an earlier show, right?
Yes, Carmen was filling in for my initial case manager, Tiffany Bullard, who was away on maternity leave.
Speaking of Tiffany Bullard, we're going to hear from her next. She's back from maternity leave and busy supporting some 40 clients as the case manager for Orange County's LRC.
The local Reentry Council is an organization that works with justice-involved individuals. That could mean they're coming straight home from incarceration from a prison institute. That could be state prison, federal prison. They could be justice-involved coming home from a jail. They could be justice-involved just being on probation, parole, or just having any type of charges that they need help navigating.
What made you decide to work with this group of people? I mean, you didn't grow up saying, I'm going to be a case manager for justice-involved people.
I did not grow up saying that, but I did grow up in a broken home where both parents were justice-involved. So from a very young age, myself, I was justice involved in some type of way, not necessarily inside any correctional institution, but experiencing it. Experiencing that carceral surrounding in the home, in the schools with counselors, police coming to our home, just experiencing that carceral effect from a very young age in every part of my life. And I decided I didn't want that in my life anymore. And how could I be part of making things better? Oftentimes, that's what happens in our communities. Like, they're not remedies. The solution is finding somebody, charging somebody, locking somebody up because it's too difficult to get to the root of it. So a part of wanting to be a case manager is trying to get to the root of why people are being justice involved. There's not somebody who fits a mold of who an LRC client is. They're all really different. They all have their different stories. They all have their different backgrounds, and they all need different treatment and resources. We do have a checklist that we go by from the North Carolina Department of Adult Corrections, just kind of like where we meet standards, our standard operating procedures, like making sure that we, at least check these items. Does somebody have an ID? Does somebody have their social security card? Are they applied for like basic needs like food stamps, clothing, those things? And then we really kind of peel back the onion layers and see what the goals are of the individual.
Why is having a reentry council so important to the community?
Having a reentry council is important to the community because there are not a lot of justice-involved individuals who are advocated for. It is still taboo, I believe, to have a criminal record, to have a criminal history. You're still stigmatized. People are still looked down upon. We've all made mistakes. Most of us just haven't been caught. But at the end of the day, we live with each other. We interact with each other, and we need to be held accountable to help one another. And I think that's what the Reentry Council does.
So how supportive is Orange County?
Orange County is a mecca of support. I have had conversations with clients who have said, they've heard about Orange County at the beach. They've heard about Orange County in the mountains, and they try to get transferred to OCC so they can be a part of the Orange County Local Reentry Council. So they can try to be part of Orange County because the resources are just rich. We have a listserv of all these organizations in Orange County. And let me tell you, If I put on that listserv, hey, this is what we're in need of, I can guarantee you by the end of the day, I have at least 5 to a dozen organizations that have said, how can I help? This is what we can do. Where can we bring this? The biggest challenge, honestly, in the work I do is housing. And when you're coming home from incarceration, not only do you have a barrier of a criminal history on your application to get any type of housing, you're also struggling to find employment. And there's barriers on types of employment. So pair those two, and you're looking at, not having housing and struggling to find work to be able to save up to get housing. Another gap that we have is, although we don't have a lot of clients who are women, the challenge there is we don't have any type of women's reentry housing, transitional housing outside of, I'm trying to think, Home Start, which is a shelter. We don't have a house for women to go to in Orange County. We usually have to send our women to transitional housing in another county, Alamance County or Durham County.
What is it that keeps you going? What do you find really gratifying about your work?
One of the greatest calls I've received actually in the last week is a woman that I've been working with about 1.5 years now. She came home from NCCIW. She has 2 teenage boys. Last year, the sheriff was able to give her and her sons a lovely Christmas. And last week, she reached out and she said, I finally got my house. She said, thank you so much. She said, for sticking by my side. And she said, once I get everything moved in, I'm going to let you know. That way you can bring me a housewarming gift. And I said, I will be there to bring you a housewarming gift. So it's those stories, it's the stories that, they have worked so damn hard, and to see like the relief and the joy and the overwhelming accomplishment, self-actualization these people have. That is what keeps me going.
What have you learned about people? What have you learned about yourself?
Let me take a minute to think on that, because there's so much. So I think what I've learned about people and myself has to revolve around substance use and mental health. I grew up, my mom and father were both heavy into addiction, heavy into substance use and just everything that comes with that. And so I developed this aversion to, like, I'm never going to do anything. I'm not going to smoke. I'm not going to drink. I'm going to be better than, okay? I'm going to be better than her. I'm going to be better than what he has done to our family. And although I still have never done any of those things, I think my better than attitude has softened, because I have seen people be really good people and just struggle. They struggle with trauma. They struggle with forgiveness. They struggle with just vices and ills and just how hard it is out here. And who am I to come at anybody with I'm going to be better than that attitude? It's changed me in a way that's made me more compassionate to people and where they are and where they're at and what they need mental health wise and substance use wise.
Listening to Tiffany and Ben, I'm really impressed by their dedication, the real love and dedication they have for the people they serve.
Yes, they really pour all of themselves into their work and to their clients.
It seems like for the people who are involved with reentry, a lot of them have been touched by the criminal justice system.
Yes, lived experience seems to be something more on the rise than others. There are a lot of jobs now that involve people with lived experience because people that are in crisis can relate to people that have already been in crisis and are now out of it.
Next, we're going to hear from someone who works with April at Freedom House. Freedom House is one of the many organizations that works closely with the Orange County LRC to provide support for justice-involved people with substance use and mental health issues. Just a note before we hear from Jeanette Parrish. At one point, she refers to a grant through the CJRD. That's an acronym for the Criminal Justice Resource Department, which oversees the local Reentry Council. Let's hear from Jeanette.
Can you state for the record your name?
I'm Jeanette Parrish, North Carolina Peer Support.
Can you tell me briefly how you came to Freedom House Recovery Center?
Maybe not briefly, but I can tell you how I got here. My journey started with a residential recovery treatment center for addiction in the mountains. And I was there for about 18 months and then applied for this job and was accepted and got the job and then moved here.
What is the purpose of Freedom House and who is it meant to serve?
Well, that's a pretty tough question. Actually, it has a whole lot of different sides to that question. Who it serves is a hard-to-serve population of people that otherwise have been, the communities have looked the other way on those people. They live with mental health disabilities, substance use disorders, and a conglomerate of other issues, maybe physical disabilities as well. So I'm a peer support that I support individuals on the mental health diversion program, which is a grant-funded program that was started with Freedom House and in collaboration with the Criminal Justice Resource Department to try to divert mental health clients from being criminally charged when they're displaying episodes of their mental health. Because a lot of these clients are homeless, they don't have any resources, and the resources that are available are usually full and can't serve them. They have a hard time, especially them not being on medication. And that's another thing is, it's a bunch of red tape for them to jump through to get to be able to get medication.
What have you learned since coming to Freedom House?
I have learned that it doesn't matter where people are at. If you give them a glimmer of hope, most of them are willing to latch on and let you help them.
Now, what motivates you and what do you find gratifying?
What motivates me is my personal recovery and safety and success, of course. And what was the other question?
What do you find gratifying?
What I find gratifying is when I see a client go from living in a tent behind food lines, scrapping for food out of a dumpster, into living on their own and being independent. That's definitely gratifying for me.
So that's our show for today. When we were working on this show, we discovered that it was getting a little long, so we divided it into 2 parts. In part 2 of our show about local reentry councils, we'll travel to Durham to talk to Ontario Joyner. He is the outreach coordinator there. We'll also hear from Darrell Clayton. He is the lead community health worker for FIT, Formerly Incarcerated Transitions, a program that provides health care for formerly incarcerated people with chronic health problems.
So tune in to part 2 of Welcome to Your Local Reentry Council to learn why Durham has become a destination for people getting out of prison.